Our next presenter is Michael Laine. Michael, are you on the call?
I am, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well, sir. Okay, Michael, you have been involved with space elevator research since 2001 as part of the definitive NASA Institute for Advanced Concepts NIAC study. At the NIAC conclusion, you used the accumulated knowledge to form LiftPort Group to push forward the concept and construct an elevator on the moon. And you're now president of the LiftPort Group, the commercial effort to build the Lunar Space Elevator. You also described LiftPort Group as an idea factory focused on commercializing the spin-off technologies developed in pursuit of this Lunar Space Elevator Infrastructure. I read one of your teenage fans once said that you were building the biggest thing ever. And so you and your engineers, you think you can build the Lunar Elevator in 8 to 12 years for about $800 million. I think that would be a bargain if you could do that. It would open up the moon. Along the way, your team have failed to figure out how to build the strongest materials ever. Instead, you've discovered new metal alloys and you hold records in robotics and ballooning, and you created a new method of weather monitoring. And you're also, Michael, the president of the U.S. Alumni Association for the International Space University. You're also organizing the 2021 Lunar Development Conference next in 2 weeks now. Very, very excited to be part of that as well. So anyway, welcome to the MarscoinExpo, and we'd love to hear what you have to say.
Terrific. James, thanks for having me. You and Leonard have done some pretty interesting work. As I'll explain in a moment, I am very new to this whole thing. I'm trying to catch up quick. I think it's really interesting, but I'm absolutely new. Shout out to Grant and his mom. So thanks for showing up here today. Before I jump in, I'm going to pull up a PowerPoint. I'm going to skip a lot of slides in the PowerPoint because it's no joke. It's this PowerPoint's a part of a 6-session, total of 12-hour class that I give on this topic. So I'm not going to give a 12-hour class right now. But what I wanted to do is, I'm not going to talk about Marscoin at all. Like, full disclosure, I don't know enough about Marscoin to be helpful. What I am going to talk about is possibly a tool set that y'all as a community, as a global community, can use to make Marscoin more viable, more used, available out into the world, and you know, to maybe help y'all accomplish your big tasks. Full disclosures, I was in the crypto space as a dabbler pretty early on, 2013 and 14. I got 9 whole Bitcoin, 9. And when I was restarting LiftPort about 4 years ago, 5 years ago, it was before the big run up, I sold it. I sold it because I sold it at $900 because there's no way that this mythical value could possibly go above $1,000. I was like, I'm selling at the very top of the market because I'm a damn genius. Clearly wrong about that. So that's my one crypto story. I'm going to jump in and pull up my PowerPoints here. I just think that it's, you know, what I'm realizing now is that we're really just in the first innings of this, right? Like it seemed like crypto writ large was you know, if you weren't in 3 or 4 years ago, you missed the boat. And now, you know, with Bitcoin hitting 60 and retreating back to $30,000 a coin, you know, we're clearly there's no such thing as missing the boat right now. We're far into it. I want to make sure that y'all are seeing my slides. I'm not sure that you are.
Not seeing them yet, Michael. Okay.
But you're now seeing the small version, right?
I now see your PowerPoint small version. Yes.
Okay.
The editor.
Okay. Now it's big.
Yes. Now you're good.
Okay, cool. Um, First of all, I've been running LiftPort for better or for worse for nearly 20 years. I was a part of the original NASA Institute for Advanced Concepts research team. This is the first draft of that original document. I say that because I've been doing big, crazy space projects for 2 decades now. Stuff that people literally thought, not figuratively, but literally thought was impossible. And in the course of the last 20 years, I've learned that it's not always about the technology. There's lots of other factors that go into whether something is possible or impossible. I've been involved with space money and finance for a long time. We're going to be hosting a conference, I think it is in September, on the Space Investment Summit, so that's going to be fun. And International Space University is my school. I can talk for hours about that, but I'm not going to. Here's my contact information. Moving on. I'm going to skip some of this. By way of backgrounds, in case anybody's curious, I was in the Marine Corps in the very beginning, straight out of high school, went into investment management. It was a big leap to go from crawling through the mud to three-piece suits. I started one of the earliest possible internet companies back in 1995. You've never heard of it, but it was focused on digital processing of money. So I've been in that headspace for a long time. Even though the company wasn't ultimately successful, it's been an interest of mine for a long time. And then, as I said, I started working on space about 20 years ago. So I'm not going to get deep into the elevator. That's not really the point of this talk. The point of this talk is to say I've learned a lot of lessons in the course of working on something that other people think is impossible. A couple of years ago, we shifted away from the Earth elevator to focus on the Lunar Elevator. I'm happy to chat about that at some other time. I'll post my contact information in the links. But here's what we're doing. This tool set that I've crafted over the last 20 years is called the Noumenia process. It is a scaffolding. It is a framework for you to figure out what you're doing and how you're doing it. It's not a business plan. It's not a business plan tool. It will make your business plan better if you do this work. How it relates to Marscoin is, I hope it's a scaffolding for building your project. This program ultimately evolved out of the last 20 years, but then it got really refined over my time at International Space University. And this is what it does. It takes new compound, complex problems and makes them accessible. It helps you to understand how to tackle new, complex, compound problems. And Marscoin, and this was in my my abstract when I submitted, Marscoin actually has 2 new complex compound problems. First, you're building an entire currency. And second, oh yeah, by the way, you're trying to populate a planet that's, you know, roughly 60-some million miles away, right? So you have 2 concurrent new complex compound problems. And this tool set is good for things that don't have clear roadmaps. There's no blueprint, there's no best practices on how to do Martian settlement or build a new currency. So these are all the parts of the combined Noumenia process. I'm going to have to blast through lots of this. Like I said, this is a 12-hour lecture. One of the things that should ultimately define what you're doing is your vision, mission, values. Truly, I say this with conviction, if you get this part wrong, don't bother with anything else. because you can't succeed. Vision, mission, values are the compass philosophies that kind of take you where you want to go. And it's, many years ago, it was kind of, consultancy du jour to talk about VMV, and they'd hire, $100,000 weekend retreats for senior executives to figure this stuff out. And it left a really bad taste in corporate America. But the reality is these are really fundamental tools that are valuable to you. And I might be wrong, because again, I'm new to this ecosystem. I've not seen vision, mission, and values articulated clearly. I like the roadmap, not arguing that. Y'all have done a lot of work, but I think there are some fundamental elements that if they're not missing, I haven't seen them. So I think they might be missing. So I'm a little concerned about that. So I want you to pay attention to that. And then once you figure out, sorry, let me back up. Vision, just for scope, it's, you're looking into the future. You're looking, most companies are only looking at a 5-year vision. I mean, that's the reality of most Silicon Valley startups. Some extraordinary organizations consider 10 years in the future. Projects like yours and projects like mine kind of require 100-year visions. That's extraordinary. For my own sake, our company has actually got 2 visions. One's a 20-year vision and one's a 100-year vision. So vision, right? Mission, really, that's what you do day in, day out to accomplish the vision. And values are, who are you as an organization? What do you believe? And how y'all figure this out shapes the course of your organization, of your idea, right? And so I really want to stress to y'all to spend some real time trying to figure out vision, mission, values. You will save yourself a lot of headache in the future on this. And again, I apologize if this exists. I just simply haven't seen it. Simplified, vision is where are you going? Mission is what are you doing? And values are how you act along the way. Once you've created your VMV, you're going to take all of those jumble of words, you're going to kind of create a word salad out of all this stuff, and you're going to prioritize all of these ideals. And I throw out 3 different examples of the same words, fast, fair, and money, in a different order: fair, fast, and money money, fast, and fair. You get vastly different results by how you prioritize the keywords of your vision, mission, values, right? Dropbox they wanted to go for speed. That was the only thing that mattered to them. Their MVP when they left their incubator, their accelerator, was a single video. They didn't have a product. They didn't make anything. The only thing they considered for their MVP was a video to say how Dropbox was going to work. And it was shockingly successful. It was fair. And they figured out if they built a market, they would make money later. Compare that to Kickstarter, who was really focused on fair, not focused on fast, not focused on money. They created a public B Corp out in New York, and they never ultimately monetized on the financial success of their platform. I think that's really interesting, and that's a very strong testament to their value system. Or if you only prioritize money and you don't care about fairness and you just want to get fast, simplest thing is just go rob a bank. Like, don't even mess with trying to build something. So that's why I want to say, like, figuring out your vision, mission, values, figuring out how you prioritize the VMV, they will lead to different outcomes. The next part of this is post, policies, objectives, strategies, and tactics. Truly, no joke, this is where I lose a lot of clients. Like they're super fun working through the compass philosophies. The VMV kind of is all like visionary stuff. They're like, oh, this is going to be cool. This is going to be the stuff I want to do and build. And then we get to the actual work of post and they're like totally checked out because this takes work. This is where your good intentions for your organization or your idea meet the real world. I think there's 50 textbooks, both military and business, that can tell you a lot about strategy and tactics. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them. Strategy is the overarching plan for you to accomplish what you're doing, and tactics are the details that change very, very frequently based on new circumstances and new data. I'm not going to get into that a lot. I think it is worth the effort to focus on that, but I think that's done really, really well in lots of different places. The areas I want to focus on are policies, objectives, and time. All right. So policies, whatever you do, we're doing it on the world. Even y'all are trying to go to Mars, fine. But currently, everything that you do is you're doing it on the world. And so there are jurisdictions that apply at every level of everything that you do, right? I don't run LiftPort out of my house. There are homeowners association accords that say no small businesses. That's hyper local, right? I pay city and county taxes. I have to file a license with the state. I might have this big audacious idea of building an elevator on the moon, but I still have to pay taxes. I still have to register documents. So there are policies, right? Y'all all know that the crypto space is a vastly confusing, quickly evolving environment, and these rules change. People are going to jail for not following and not figuring out these rules, and they should. People are being murdered because they haven't figured out some of these rules, and maybe they should too. Building an elevator on the moon means I've got to have national and international relationships and partners, right? I've got to comply to all sorts of stuff in order to accomplish my tasks. I believe that the Marscoin community, because they're spread out from so many places, I think on this call today, just the speakers themselves, Blaisdell bounces between Poland, Los Angeles, and Miami, as far as I know. We had folks from Middle Europe. We had some folks I think are from Italy, right? And so each of those regions have different rules for cryptocurrencies, right? Not just Marscoin, but the currency writ large. So it's valuable and worth the effort to have people who know the local jurisdictions to be advising on some of this stuff. I know in the crypto field, one of the earliest speakers this morning referenced Tunstall. There ain't no such thing as a free lunch. That really resonates with me. I'm a big Heinlein nerd. There isn't any such thing as a free lunch, but the diner always kind of controls what's on the menu. I know I really stretched that example a little far, so I'm going to move on. But there's a lot of anti-establishment folks in these communities, in the crypto communities. They've been in the space communities for years and years. I get the philosophies behind that. I really, really do. But until such time as we have, total anarchy around the world, these are the policies we have collectively agreed to live under. So Knowing what they are, knowing what happens if you ignore them, that's worth a lot of effort. We talked strategy and tactics a bit. I always spend a lot of time at the skirmish level, right? Every single day is a skirmish to build the elevator on the moon. I think every single day there's a skirmish in building a currency that represents another planet. There are long-term strategies, and I think that's been reflected in some of the conversations earlier today. You know, those roadmaps are good. I particularly like the work that I think his name is Jaka was talking about. He and his friend, about a traveling coin. I think public awareness and public engagement is a useful strategy. I'm not going to try to dictate what his tactics or the skirmish levels are, but you know, he articulated social media and traveling and engagement, right? And so when he gets boots on the ground, whether he goes to America or wherever he goes next, I mean, he's going to have to deal with passport problems, right? Because that's America today. So there's skirmishes, right? So all of these go into the planning processes for the big ideas that you're trying to accomplish. Something that is normally neglected, but I got to say kudos to our earlier speakers who brought up, there was 3 different speakers that talked about history. And that's really powerful. You can learn a lot from past lessons, right? By understanding the past, not reliving it, not giving it too much weight, but understanding the circumstances of the past, it gives you a very strong appreciation for the state of the art. Sometimes people don't know that. SOTA in my world is state of the art. And we all know that the state of the art for the commercial space sector and the global efforts to go to the moon and Mars, that state of the art is changing all the time, like almost every week, every day sometimes. So those lessons from the past can help us understand where we are today, and it may help us make predictions, ideas about what the future is going to be. I don't think you can, I can't make a future prediction of 20 years or 100 years on my project, but I think you can make, you know, reasonable bets in 1, 2, 3 year increments. I'm working on a project with the chief scientist of the U.S. Space Force on the futures, on the evaluation that goes out to 2035. So there are some things you can do, but you lose confidence in that prediction set. All right, the action matrix is, so all the stuff that we talked about before, vision, mission, values, that's textbook business school 101 stuff. Strategy and tactics, also tons of options for that. Maybe not so many on policies and objectives. I missed something on objectives. I'm missing a slide on objectives. I'm missing a slide. So let me go into objectives a little bit more. I'm not sure how that's missing. I've used this deck about 50 times. Objectives are something I want you to really think about for a second. You took your vision, mission, values, you articulated them, you broke them into keywords, and then you prioritized those keywords. The next element of that is to build KPIs, key performance indicators, around your key ideas. All right. So what I'm doing by tying these objectives back to your vision, mission, values is I'm making your VMVs actionable. What the problem of past decades of VMV work is that they were nice documents that got put on letterhead and were enclosed into corporate filings and such, but they weren't actionable. So if you take your keywords out of the VMV and build objectives out of it, now you've got trackable, articulate, shareable key performance indicators, KPIs, that you can act on. So your vision, mission, values becomes your everyday actions, right? And I reference them as objectives, and maybe some of y'all have heard the phrase SMART goals. They're kind of synonymous. SMART goals, you can look that up. There's tons of references on it. Strategic, specific, measurable, actionable, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely, right? What is it specifically? Can you measure it? Is there an objective criteria that you either succeeded or didn't succeed? So there needs to be a number associated with it, whatever your objective is. Attainable is it? It should be something you can actually do. Some people do this on a 3-month basis. Some people do it on a yearly basis. Some people start at the bottom, like this is where I am today, and work their way towards that 5-year mission. Other people flip it around, 5-year vision. Other people flip it around. It's like, this is where I want to be in 5 years. What do I have to do to get there? I find the more complex your project, the easier it is to start bottom up. But that's my own personal experience. I think that's subjective for other people. Relevant, right? It needs to be relevant to your VMV. You'd be surprised how many people go off course by not going after something that's relevant to their big plans. I've done it. I'm sure lots of others have kind of was like, oh, what's the new cool shiny? All right, I'm gonna veer off, do this thing because it's fast revenue, or it's fun, or it's easy, or makes me famous, or whatever, right? So don't chase after things that are shiny, right? Go for things that are relevant. And the last is timely, which I guess I already mentioned, whether it's 3 months or 9 months or a year or 5 years or whatever your time scale is, right? All right, I don't know where that slide went, but I apologize for that. So all of the VMV stuff is textbook stuff. Some of the post stuff is textbook. Some of it's pretty new. I'm happy to work with folks if they want to look at more objectives. I'm pretty good at kind of getting people to get to a cool answer, a useful answer on that. It is the piece that drags on for people and they don't like doing it because it's hard work. So then this last part, numbers 3, 4, and 5, together collectively, they are the action matrix. If you can imagine a spreadsheet and across the side are challenges on the edges, coming down from the top are stakeholders, and where those two, the row and the columns intersect, that cell where those cells combine, that's goals, investments, and tasks. And I reference this action matrix as kind of a 3-dimensional to-do list. And I say that because you have changing stakeholders and changing challenges, and where they meet, those cells change. But in a spreadsheet, you can have, today's goals, investments, tasks, the next day's goals, investments, and tasks, and you can have different tabs for different time scales. So that's why I refer to it as a 3-dimensional to-do list. Stakeholders, if you get stakeholders wrong, whatever your idea is going to fail. I will stand by that. I have failed. I have succeeded. If you get stakeholders wrong, you will fail. Of all the elements of the Noumenia process, this is the one that it is the hardest to do. It is the one that changes the fastest. It's the one that will give you really good days and really bad days. It's hard to stay on top of. But if you get it wrong, you will fail. If you get it right, it doesn't guarantee you're going to succeed, but it gives you a way better chance. All right. So that's your action matrix. By the way, I'm sweating. It's 94 degrees in my office. It's a 100-year-old building. There's no air conditioning. Seattle is having the next couple of days are the hottest heat wave in more than a decade. So it's very uncomfortable here. All right. So stakeholders, they're really self-defined. A person or group that has an investment share or interest in something. That's a dictionary definition, but there's more to it than that, right? If somebody doesn't know what you're doing, they can't be a stakeholder. They don't care, right? But stakeholders come in a lot of different flavors, right? We talked about the jurisdictions a minute ago. That's a lot of governmental stakeholders. Not to call you all out, but it's a good example. Grant and Ava are family, right? There are stakeholder relationships in their organization. There are some in mine. Investors. I mean, that's the one. That's often the difference between make or break projects, is finding people that that commit. And investors, by the way, is not always cash in this context. It's also time or resources, capital. It's capital in all 5 different definitions of capital. Identifying stakeholders is challenging, time-consuming, and necessary. So we break them into different buckets. It's important to note that you can be in more than one bucket. The same stakeholder can be in more than one bucket. And I'm going to beat this horse to death because this is the entirety of how we look at stakeholders. Okay, I'm that serious about that this stuff getting this right will change your life. I promise. So, stance, right? Do they want to help you or do they want to hurt you? In the Discord channel, there's some number, a couple hundred. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but in the Discord channel, I'm going to guess that every single person there wants to help. Full disclosure, I bought my very, very first Marscoin this morning during the conference. So I am now on that side of the equation, right? Until yesterday, I was ambivalent. I was undecided. I didn't really know if I cared. That's not true. I'm giving that as a hyperbolic example. But until I actually spent money, I could have been on the fence, right? I could have just been an observer. People have seen me in the Discord channel for probably 2 months. That was me being an observer, all right? I'm not trying to hinder y'all, all right? Super important. But people are, right? Without going too deep into my own personal history, I made 2 very, very big mistakes in my career, and I have active trolls that want to see me burn. So there are people that won't like what you're doing, and given all of the altcoins and all of the memes and the chaos in the crypto sphere, I'm going to guess y'all probably have people that don't want you to succeed. I think that might be true. I'm not certain of it. A different way of looking at stakeholders is internal and external. I just said I bought my first coins. I was an external stakeholder. Now I would consider myself an internal stakeholder. Almost nobody can do more damage to you than a disgruntled, pissed off, in my case, 15-year-old fired intern who was an internal stakeholder that gave my passwords out to his script kiddie friends. So internal stakeholders can do you a tremendous amount of harm. They can also be the reason you succeed because they're committed to the goals, the ideas, the visions, missions, and values, right? Most things are external stakeholders, right? Microsoft limits you on how you can do this graph, but if I had my way, internal stakeholders is this big and external stakeholders is that big, right? Another way is kind of at the stage that they're at. I don't know how everybody got to this conference. I don't know how everybody got to the Discord channel. I don't know how everybody got to the Marscoin environment in the first place, but it's a safe bet they went through some of these stages, right? Skeptics. I like skeptics, by the way, because skeptics, if you convert them, become really powerful advocates. Some people are angry. Some are just kind of curious. I just told you I spent months kind of on the edges. But then you evolve into this last category, committed category. You become a supporter, you become an active fan, you get psychologically, emotionally, and in many cases in this community, financially committed. So you get involved. You show up at events like this. You chat on the Discord channel, right? I don't know how many wallets there are in the world for Marscoin versus how many people are connected on the Discord channel, but that would be a metric that you might want to consider for the KPIs and the objectives, right? How have you, as a community, converted the random wallet holder to somebody who shows up at events like this, right? Super important to note that the network is always more powerful than the node, right? Somebody earlier was talking about network effects. That is one of the most powerful forces in the 21st century. And it's very applicable to this community. And how does that happen? How do you evolve that though? You start with a single person. I'm going to call that person a blob. And that person goes into a cafe because pre-pandemic, that's where a lot of people used to work. But they're by themselves. But then they go to the cafe on a regular basis and they see 3 or 4 other people and they all do the head nod like, hey, right? They don't know each other. They're not communicating, but they've identified that they are a part of a crowd of remote workers all using Wi-Fi and drinking a lot of coffee. So they become like recognizes like. But then they all decide to sit at the table together and that becomes a horde. A horde is disorganized. There's no leadership. But a mob, when somebody says, hey, you know, let's all meet here next Tuesday at 10 and we'll work together. Now you've got the person who organized that is now the leader of the mob. Hordes don't have mobs. Now, those 4 people at that cafe with leadership and a combined decision to meet up, that becomes a node. And maybe they connect on Facebook and they connect with other nodes in other places, all working on the same thing. And suddenly you have a network. The Marscoin community is exactly this. It is exactly this. And this can be replicated and expanded upon. That's why I was particularly interested in the work that Jaka and his friend are going to do, because they can go around the country and around the world creating, being a leader, being a mob leader, going to places, creating community, leaving a place with a node intact, going to the next place, building another node, going to the next place, building another node. And all of a sudden you have a global network. So kudos to those folks for doing that, because I think that is super powerful.
5 more minutes, Michael.
Thank you. Okay. Good. I'm actually almost where I want to be. We've talked a lot about governments, corporations, and nonprofits. That's just another way of identifying, and another way of identifying stakeholders is jurisdiction. All right, almost at the end here. Challenges. In my experience building an elevator, everybody focuses on hardware. You know, we built carbon nanotubes. We built some of the strongest. We failed at making strong string, but we did make some cool stuff. We built a lot of robots. You can see behind me, we've got a bunch of nanotech and materials over here. Everybody focuses on the hardware. And in the Marscoin community, I think that's somewhat appropriate to focus on the machinery of doing this work. But often ignored is the business, outreach, and framework components, right? How do you pay for what you're trying to do? It's not an easy answer. And so when you're working on hardware, there's kind of 3 sub-levels. There's the aha stage, the discovery and invention stage. You know, whomever Satoshi was, that was one of those stages, right? As Marscoin creates new elements within their coin, that's also science and discovery. It takes a long time to move out of the lab into a production facility, right? Same thing with business. It takes time, right? You know, it takes money, it takes resources, operations management. That stuff has to be articulated. How do you tell your story, right? This conference is an example of telling your story. Discord's an example. There's lots of examples. And then ultimately, the environmental component, right? And I don't mean just the tree hugging component, although given Bitcoin's carbon footprint, that is actually concerning. But so framework, right? The last piece, goals, investments, and tasks. It's super easy. If you have done all of this other prior work, this last part is dead simple. Because you'll know the answers to the questions you have, right? If the Noumenia process is a tool for understanding complex compound problems, new complex compound problems, then once you've done all of these other 4 steps, and by the way, they're sequential, you can't skip, you cannot skip, they are sequential. Once you get done with the first 4, goals, investments, and tasks, it's a cakewalk, right? Figure out timescales. I usually work in weeks and months. Figure out what you're going to spend on your goals. Is it dollars in capital? Is it time in capital? Are you going to assign human resources to the problem? What's your investment? And then tasks. Tasks are always 30-day problems. They have to be budgeted for by time, like you have to schedule them. You have to figure out when they're due. You have to prioritize them. And somebody's got to be in charge of just managing it to make it happen. So that's what we got. I know we're kind of running out of time for questions, but I am available afterwards, and I'm available for as long as James gives me. So I'm going to cut out of here and stop sharing.
One question, I think we have time for one. So Leonard Lopin, our founder, was wondering, when you were going over the mission, vision, and values portion, have you had a chance to read our white paper?
So I did, but not well. I think I understand your values in the sense of, you know, gifting 1 million coins to the society. I mean, 2 times, like, in a way, right? Both different organizations. But I don't feel like they are gracefully. I don't think they are as strong as I would like them to be. That's how I'm going to say that. I don't think they are specific, measurable, actionable. I don't think they are. I think they could be a rallying point. Maybe I missed something. I made that disclaimer several times, but from what I saw, that wasn't enough for me.
I totally hear what you're saying. And Leonard also just chimed in. Fair enough. Like he agrees. I think handing someone a, however long it is, 12-page document and saying that's our mission, vision, and values. You need something more digestible.
Yes, exactly.
I just look at the flag right behind me. Okay, the Mars flag. I mean, this is what I stand for.
Right.
I want to plant this sucker on Mars. That's my mission. But no, I think it would be a great exercise for us to just sit down and.
I'm happy to work with y'all. I'm happy to work to chat with y'all about that. Happy to do it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
I converted myself in the last couple weeks, right? In the last 2 months. So
we're very excited you bought your first Marscoin today. And as I said, to use another business term, you are now a pig and not a chicken because you now have skin in the game.
Skin in the game. Yep.
Well, thank you so much, Michael. This was great. It was great to learn all that information.
Terrific.
Thanks for being part of our event.